Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on this edition of the newscast on Equinoxe television. We're broadcasting from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babble Jonathan, and our top stories in this edition of the news. International rights group Amnesty International blames the Cameroonian army for the killing in Mautu village in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. In its report, it confirms that the Cameroonian soldiers who stormed the village killed 9 civilians, including an aged woman. And out of the country, we'll talk about the recent major operation launched by the Nigerian army in the Sambisa forest, and several Boko Haram militants were killed. International rights group Amnesty International, rather Human Rights Watch, has published its report on the January 10 killing in Mautu village in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. In the report, the right organization blames the Cameroonian army for the killing of over 9 civilians, including an aged woman in that village. Details of that report with Innocent.
Human Rights Watch, in its latest report published on its website, accuses the Cameroonian military for killing 9 civilians in Mautu village in the southwest region. The deputy director of the non-governmental organization declares that killing civilians and razing their houses in the name of security are gross human rights abuses in the Anglophone regions. The rights group published the report based on testimonies given by 17 persons it interviewed related to the bereaved families. Human Rights Watch also declares that Doctors Without Borders deployed to Mautu treated 4 persons, including a child, wounded by bullets. The organization precised it contacted 4 credible sources on the 9 persons massacred in Mautu. Results and conclusion of the findings were transmitted to the communication director at the Ministry of Defense, Serge Cyril Atomfak, who rejected the evidence presented, saying they were fabricated. He, however, admits elements of the 21st Motorized Infantry Battalion carried out an operation in Mautu on the 10th of January without killing and injuring civilians. Human Rights Watch writes about 50 military men marched into Mautu at 2 p.m. that fateful day and opened fire indiscriminately, killing an old woman and a 6-year-old girl. These informations, according to Human Rights Watch, have been confirmed by Cameroonian civil society organizations, notably the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa of Barrister Agbobalan Congo and the Network for Human Rights Defenders in Central Africa, REDAC. Human Rights Watch that also accuses armed groups for committing rights abuses in the northwest and southwest regions demands an independent international investigation so as to bring to light many of such abuses committed by both warring parties. Antonio Guterres, UN Secretary General, has exhorted Cameroonian authorities to ensure suspects of this massacre are presented before judges to answer to their crimes.
Students of the University of Yaoundé are sending distress calls to the administration of that institution over insecurity. And of course, this is a major problem within the campus and around the university. Several students have been attacked by suspected bandits. One of the recent cases is that of a female student, Mpela Lado Nikel. She died of wounds incurred during an attack by suspected bandits. The students told us that there are no street lights along some of the major roads leading to the university, and the entrance and exit points are not protected. The administration of the University of Yaoundé is yet to react to this problem. Back here to the economic capital of Cameroon, we're going to talk about the health hazard being provoked by the abandonment of a road construction project, and the construction works on the stretch of road linking Makepe-Rompoulin to Lokpom has been abandoned for unknown reasons, and locals are holding the government to task over the abandonment of that project. From me, Anglophone.
Welcome to the stretch of road linking Makepe-Rompoulin to Lokpom in the Douala 5 subdivision. A stretch of potholes, dust and mud. In short, a veritable nightmare to users, roadside vendors and local inhabitants. Dust is our major problem. I am obliged to wash my apples every now and then. The dust is too much.
Look at my stand. I have not unveiled it because of dust. Just few vehicle owners are ready to stop here and buy. At rush hour, it gets really congested here because of the state of the road.
A situation that leaves no one indifferent in Makepe and Lokpom, especially the younger ones, who have now adopted a daily combat attitude to be able to move across the stretch to school every day.
We are now obliged to use motorbikes to transport our children to school despite the risk involved. This is because the road is always blocked with traffic congestion. Only bikes manage to get children to school faster. Let them finish our road.
Je vous en prie, mettez nos enfants dans des situations agréables pour aller à l'école. On arrange la route. Si on avait fini d'arranger, nous on serait tranquille dans notre coin, on serait en train de vendre nos marchandises tranquillement.
Above the health complications, the uncomfortable noise and dust raised by each passing vehicle, the hike in the cost of transportation is another bitter pill to swallow. Transport fare has increased because drivers and riders have to spend more hours in congestion or take longer alternative stretches. Few kilometers from Rompoulin in Makepe is a newly constructed stretch of road at the Bonabasem roundabout in Daido. Works here were launched several months after that of Makepe and Lokpom, and realization took place within the programmed deadline, as opposed to the stretch linking Makepe and Lokpom. On the Makepe-Lokpom stretch, only roadblock signs and blogs are visible announcing a project, but activities have been halted for close to 2 months without an explanation to the local population. In our quest to know why the project has been abandoned, leaving the people to inhale dust, we contacted the project owner, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, where the concerned officials refused to comment. A refusal that further complicates the frustration of local inhabitants who are eager to know when exactly the road will be completed. A completion that will also mark the end of dust, miseries and frustrations in the Makepe and Lokpom neighborhood of Douala 5 subdivision.
Yesterday was a very disappointing evening. Last evening was a very disappointed one for supporters of the Intermediate Lions of Cameroon, who saw their team being beaten 4-0 by the Atlas Lions of Morocco at the semi-final of the African Nations Championship. Many of them were very disappointed with the performance of the Intermediate Lions, and Davidson Maimo spoke to some of them and compared this report.
The boys, they were just doing like as if they did not train well for this match. I don't understand. I'm disappointed with the Lions. I'm very, very disappointed.
Monians no playing nothing.
The players were just...
Franchement, on n'a pas l'équipe. On n'a pas l'équipe, franchement. L'équipe. Ça, c'est quoi ça?
Même le championnat, on n'a même pas. Je suis malien. Désormais, je suis malien. Je suis malien.
Le Mali.
Mali. Je suis malien. Je suis malien. Ouais, pour le chant, je suis malien.
Wednesday, the 3rd of February 2021, Cameroonians in shock and disbelief expressed their frustration after a 4-0 spank from the hands of the Moroccans at the Limbe Omnisport Stadium.
I'm very, very disappointed because this is the first time I'm actually coming to the field to watch a Cameroonian match. So it was a terrible, terrible experience for me.
Very, very disappointed with the players and the referee. Je suis vraiment désolé.
They were supposed to add even 5 minutes for us to back all that 4 goals and win. That's where I'm very angry. Now on field, they win on 4-0. Very painful.
It was horrible. We were beaten.
Vraiment, non. Vraiment décevant. Il ne peut pas. Très décevant, papa.
Some console themselves. It is the first time the Intermediate Lions are playing the semi-finals.
We can say that football is when you lost or you win. So it's okay for us.
Our boys played and the better team won. Mettez Jacques Zoua, il ne met pas Jacques Zoua. Il va nous mettre les Soga, il joue quoi?
Others look at the defeat with a critical football mindset.
It is between professional football and unprofessional football, okay? And you see the Moroccans have a very good style of play, and they were very concentrated and they did their best. But for the Cameroonians, we see some individual talents, but we didn't see a collective game of play. That's why we didn't win the match.
Nonetheless, Limbe and the entire Southwest organized a party celebrating a successful Shan hosting in the region.
Very happy because nobody expected that Limbe here would host Shan successful. Wow. Security challenges that fell down the whole night,
In Limbe, we successfully had the Shan tournament with all the glamour and all what you can imagine.
As the Intermediate Lions prepared to take on Guinea on the 3rd place match, Cameroonians in this part of the country and the nation at large shall forever remember the 4-0 defeat suffered from the hands of the Atlas Lions of Morocco.
It was such a huge disappointment, a bitter pill, just too difficult to swallow for the supporters of the Intermediate Lions of Cameroon, and traditional rulers of the Fako division, southwest region of the country, have said they have nothing to do with purported predictions of victory for the Intermediate Lions in the quarterfinal game against Morocco. They said that it had to do with some traditional rulers of Limbe and not the Fako division as a whole. Derijato.
Cameroon, Morocco, 2021 African Championship semi-finals. The Limbe Omnisport Stadium, and the rendezvous is honored. They all brave the separatist fighters straight, and from all the 10 regions converge as one man to cheer their Intermediate Lions to victory. But unfortunately, the result was rather opposite. The Moroccans defeated Cameroon 4-0 behind their own backyard. The boys of Martin Tungo Pile was no match to the fast legs boys of Hossein Amota. And today, the story on the social media is that the predictions of the traditional rulers of Fako division after their liberation, that the match will be in favor of Cameroon, has not come to pass. But the Fako chiefs on their part said the Fako chiefs were not given the place to talk to their God. Rather, some Limbe chiefs took upon themselves and carried out with the tougher assignment without even seeking the directives from experts when it comes to talking with their ancestors.
Fako na one people, but the libation what they do for that field for Limbe, the bina for Limbe chiefs. They silent Fako, make you not put name for Fako for front. Because if now Fako be stand, then throw water, now for sit, then say, come on, win that match clear.
They should make provision for that. It is very important. Because in Fako we have
we have the sea and we have the mountains. So you cannot separate the two. You understand? Now, if you separate the two, it will not go. Now, the people of the sea will come and the people of the mountain, they come, then they consolidate.
There was just a reporting that several Boko Haram militants are reported to have been killed in a major operation by the Nigerian army in the Sambisa forest. The troops are said to have stormed the Boko Haram bases in the Sambisa forest, and the Boko Haram group has been trying to establish an Islamic state in northeastern Nigeria since 2009. Coming up next, Talking Point. Thanks for staying with us in Talking Points. Today, U.S. President Joe Biden signs immigration executive orders to address what is qualified as moral failing of Trump's policies. One of the executive orders will create a task force that will reunite children who were separated from their parents under Donald Trump's zero-tolerance policy, and the task force will be chaired by the Homeland Security Secretary. Globally, the three major executive orders signed Tuesday are aimed at reversing former President Donald Trump's hardline immigration policies. And joining us from the United States of America, Barrister Aneneba Innocent Akufo, attorney and counselor at law in New York, specialist in U.S. immigration law, human rights defender, and major proponent of decolonization, and author of the book The Land We Leave Behind. Barrister, you're welcome.
Well, it's a pleasure to be on Equinoxe, Mr. Babile, and on your show too.
Right. Could Joe Biden's policies on immigration ease the concerns of undocumented migrants in the U.S.?
Well, it is, yes, it is a concern of people who are in the United States who are undocumented and those who are also illegal in the United States. And it's the concern of every other person in the United States because, you know, as you know, United States, it's a dispensation that was founded on immigration. People were fleeing from tyranny, oppression from the British king, and came to the United States and founded this new culture that we thrive on today. So it's a land founded on immigrants, and this is where, you know, everything has been tested and it's been working so far in terms of immigration and the legal system that shrouds immigration law. So, you know, coming on with those executive orders by the current president, President Biden, is something that he had absolutely promised during his campaign that he would do in the first 100 days when he becomes president. And taking cue from that, he decided to appoint, you know, a Hispanic as the director of the Department of Homeland Security. That's a major step. That's a major step right there, because these are the people who feel the brunt. These are people whose ancestry is going through all the harsh realities of immigration in the United States. And appointing somebody with, you know, with that background, it's telling you that the president means business. And if he comes in within the first 100 days, signing these executive orders, it's privy for us to absolutely think that this is where he would go in terms of immigration, because he styles it as the moral failings of the previous administration of Mr. Trump, who was very hard-lined in terms of immigration and was a little bit suspect when it comes to alienage, because he wanted people of a certain, you know, class to come to the United States, not any type of person. If you're black, brown, no, you're not welcome in the United States. But if you're a Caucasian from a particular, you know, part of the world, then you're the type of people he wants in the United States. So those are the harsh realities we went through the past 4 years, and that's something that we're trying to unwind in terms of the immigration policies. And the one thing that he's doing is by using executive orders, which again, it is not law per se, because Congress writes immigration laws, but it's temporary law based on the executive power that the Constitution shrines him with. He can issue those temporary legal, you know, principles which would last for a particular period. And of course, you know, he's undoing what Trump did. and some other president who comes in after President Biden in 4 years can also, if he's a Republican, or even if he's a Democrat and he wants to undo what President Biden has done, he can do that through executive orders. So, but until he absolutely gets Congress to be involved in this, we will still be in this particular situation. But again, it's a temporal fix. We welcome it, and we can take this one and run with it.
One of the executive orders creates a task force that will reunite children who were separated from their parents under Donald Trump's zero-tolerance policy. But an official of the White House said that the task force will look only into families that are still separated. This excludes families that deliberately choose deportation to a country where they originally decided to flee. And lawyers for the families had argued that as a victim or victims of separation policy, they should be allowed special protection to return to the U.S. to seek asylum. What do you think about this?
Well, the way I understand the law, it's, you know, most laws they're not retroactive. They not go back again and fix the wrong that they did. If they realize that there was a wrong in the law, what they do is they fix it now and move on from there. So if you had been deported to a third country, you did not sign to go back to the country where you were facing persecution from, and you were sent to a different country. Let's say you're from Cameroon and you were still afraid to go back to Cameroon and you opted for a third country. Let's say Venezuela, and you are now in Venezuela. You cannot relaunch your case and come back and say that because you were deported, you were deported under a bad law, then you should come back again to the United States and redo your case again. No, I don't think it will work that way. So, excuse me. So basically, we would go from here going forward. So if the White House spokesperson is saying that they will look at those people who are currently in, within the purview of U.S. law, then they will look into that. So those children, especially children, because we have some dignity and some humanity for children, because you cannot see children being cramped up in cages like cooked fishes and all that stuff. It's not right. You know what the former president did. So that's a humanitarian issue right there. It's a human rights issue. It's an issue of dignity. It's an issue about our morality, about little children, fleeing from war-torn zones or from areas of oppression and violence, and coming and you lock them up in a cage. That imagery right there, it's something that America should not have tolerated. Even if you say a former administration built the cages, but you put the children in the cages. So that's pressing. So those children, they will try to reunite those. And of course, what President Trump did in his era was very, very unconscionable. Some of the laws that he espoused and applied, most of those executive orders, because he had this guy at the White House, Stephen Miller, who was the czar in terms of immigration policy. He crafted very draconian laws. So if the president is trying to undo most of this stuff, it will take a step-by-step process. So we go with the most pressing before, we go to the other aspects, because some of these children, their mothers or their parents, they're never in the United States. So we'll try to reunite those. Maybe, I don't know how they will craft it, whether bring the parents to come get their children or send the children directly back to their mothers, because you don't even know who their parents are because they came so young. Some of them may not even know who their parents are. So it's a very difficult process. And that's why they begin with the piecemeal process and begin with this trying issue before to go to other aspects.
Another issue is the Trump administration's remain in Mexico policy, which has left tens of thousands of asylum seekers living in poor and deplorable conditions in northern Mexico as they wait court hearings to make their cases for protection in the U.S. What's going to change here?
That particular policy that the president crafted through his White House policy immigration, czar, was a violation of international norms, a violation of all international treaties that the United States is signatory to. You know, somebody cannot be fleeing from torture. If that person reaches your border, you send that person back to a situation where they might end up being tortured again. So the Remain in Mexico policy, which is, yes, you know, you come to the United States, they want you to go to the country where you found a little bit of, you know, comfort to be able to apply for asylum. So you remain in Mexico, and your case, when it comes up, you can, you know, come get your case heard in the United States. It doesn't work that way. Mexico is not the United States. Whatever agreement that Mr. Trump came up with the president of Mexico, it is illegal under international norms and standards. So that's exactly what the president is going to do. You know, bring these children, bring these people back to the United States and let them have their due process in the United States. You know, get an immigration officer. If you cannot go through that process, you go to the immigration court, and there will be a judge there that they would hear your case and give you the full due process of the law. Because, believe it or not, lots of people have been deported back from that Mexico because their cases were not properly heard, and they will never, you know, receive justice in this world because of that particular policy. And I remember, you know, people from Cameroon went on hunger strikes because the way they were being maltreated by ICE authorities. And so these are things that, you know, they're going to address, because Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is the police task force of the Department of Homeland Security in terms of immigration, they were cavalier in what they were in how they were executing the law, because even attorneys could not really reach them because you know, they sort of interpreted the Immigration and Nationality Act the way they wanted, because that's how they got it from the top. Because when the top itself tells you that this is how you do it, you have to craft it towards that way. So with the new asylum policy that the president is going to approach, Mr. Mayorkas, who is the Department of Homeland Security, we pray that they bring things back to normal, the way international norms address these issues, and not let a particular person decide to twist it the way he wants, because I know you can twist the scales of justice. They would balance, but they will not balance to the favor of the person who absolutely needs justice. So we pray for that.
The third executive order focuses on U.S. government's desire to promote integration and inclusion, and of course the policy of public charge, and that is a policy that punishes legal immigrants who use public benefits by hurting their chances of receiving a green card. What's your opinion about this?
Indeed, if you come through the ports of New York, there is the Lady Liberty that is telling you, come in with your misery and I will make you whole. I'm just trying to tell you what that particular symbol is. And that's how the first, you know, Europeans came to the United States, and most of them, I mean, the Irish, where the president's ancestry is traced from, you know, when they were suffering from famine and all the problems, that's how that statue welcomed them to the United States. They did not tell them, bring me your money and I'll show you where the medication is or where the food is you can buy and live and stay in the United States. That's not what that statue is. That's not the symbol. That's not the symbol of America in terms of welcoming people who are wretched or poor. Because they bring me your wretched and I will help them. So if the president, that particular the public charge issue, it's something that passed through the Supreme Court. It was strictly, you know, between the Republic, you know, the conservatives and the liberals on the Supreme Court. That law itself is broadly written. Anyone can interpret it the way they want. So if an immigration officer wants to charge, put you on a public charge issue, they can interpret that law the way they want. So that law itself, it is broadly written, and it would fail in due course. But what public charge does is, if you're an immigrant in the United States and you intend to change your status, let's say to a green card, and you know, you had received some aid from the government, then that counts against you. You may never become a green card holder just because you received some aid from the government. Let's say you are sick, you know, you go to the hospital and you cannot pay for your bills because you're just coming to the United States. You don't have a place, you're not working, you don't have any income. You know, your family or your sponsors might not have the money to pay for this goods and medication. So if you take a benefit from the government, that's a public charge. Or if you receive some food from the government, that's a public charge. But that's something that it has never been an issue in the United States, because that's just an emergency aid, because you're not coming to the United States to become a pauper, and you're coming here to work hard, because every person that I know who steps foot in the United States, they're coming to better themselves. Those that are fleeing from poverty or from persecution or from violence, they set foot on the land where there is freedom and there is liberty. What they do is they take advantage of all the opportunities, all the menial jobs they do in order to make money and not depend on the government. So that particular issue, it is law already. So the president, I don't know how he would do to undo that law. Maybe you write something to Congress that makes the public charge not applicable, because if you're filing your papers to get benefits, let's say to get a green card, it is an issue right there. You have to answer whether you want to be, whether you're coming to the United States to be a public burden. And of course, you know, you have to say no, because if you say yes, that automatically excludes you. Because even getting health insurance, because if you're asking somebody from Cameroon who intends to immigrate to the United States, if they would buy health insurance, those of us who live here, to pay for health insurance is very expensive. We find it difficult to pay. Then what about somebody coming from Cameroon where, you know, the average person earns, you know, a maximum of $60,000 a month? Then you're expecting that person to be paying hundreds of dollars in health insurance when they come to the United States. So it was just inhumane. So I'm hopeful that that particular public charge issue will be addressed by the president.
How long does it take, and what is required to easily get a green card in the U.S.?
It just depends how you're getting your green card, because there are just different ways how you get it. You can get your green card like the people who come in and seek asylum. If you win your case in immigration court, or if an asylum officer believes that, yes, you are afraid to go back to your home country, they find your case credible and truthful, and that you can go back and you'll be tortured, they grant you asylum. So once you get it, once you win your case at that level, it takes you a year, you apply, you get a green card. Then the other way that you can get a green card in the United States is also you are being sponsored by a family member who is a U.S. citizen or a U.S. green card holder. So let's say you're in Cameroon, for example. Let's make it easy. Let's say you're in Cameroon and your mother is in the United States, and your mother is a U.S. citizen, or your father is a U.S. citizen. If he files for you, you know, it takes about a year and a half for you to get processed in Cameroon, and you come into the United States, you come on a green card at that moment. Or if you're already in the United States and your father is here or your mother is here, and you enter the United States legally, it will take about, in the past, it used to take about maximum 9 months for you to get a green card. Now it takes about a year and something, but hopefully when the Department of Homeland Security and USCIS is fully staffed, because they were understaffed in the past 4 years, things will pick up and the volume would be a little bit much more better and quicker. So again, depending, or if you get your green card through employment, that's also different. So it just depends how you get your green card, but it's a process. If you're legally present in the United States and if you do it properly, I think within a year and a half, you should get a green card.
Asylum seekers were recently deported from the U.S. What can possibly explain the fact that somebody fails to obtain or to win an asylum case?
You know, when I always look at those people that have been repatriated through the, you know, a process of refoulement where you send people to be tortured back in their home country, that's the image that comes into my mind. Because if people are coming from Cameroon to come seek political protection in the United States because they're fleeing from violence based on the you know, their political opinion or whatever motive they gave, as they are recently coming to the United States to seek protection, I mean, under international norms and conventions, you should not send them back to Cameroon. You send them to a third country who is willing to take them. Unfortunately, the way the law is right now, or the way the law has been existing in a vacuum in the past 4 years, these children or these people are sent back to the same country where they're fleeing from persecution. And guess what? They would be tortured. They would be persecuted, because I do remember sometimes last year, I think about a plane load of about 70 people were sent back to Cameroon. I've heard many family members, they've not been able to see those people. So we don't know where they are. But I bet you they're not roaming in the streets like freely like people, because the families would not be looking for them. So when these people go back, the same country that they were fleeing from, they would be tortured. The government would have a different version of their story. Some would say these people were, they were criminals in the first place. No, you cannot fabricate a crime when they come back and tell the world that they were criminals. No, you cannot do that. So again, these are the things that mount on the government. They see your human rights records, and it would eventually, you're the predator. At some point, it will fizzle out on you, and the arms of the law would get hold of you also. So it is not something that it's not a free meal. It's not a free pass that you execute the law the way you want. So again, these people have been deported back to Cameroon. We pray that they should be treated humanely. The ambassador would sign that, okay, they will be treated well, but from experience and from what I've seen, it's the contrary. So it's a travesty that we deal with, and hopefully there is a solution to this.
Some were yet to be deported. Can President Biden's immigration policies give a second chance to those who have already been deported and those who are yet to be deported?
Have been deported. Again, as I said, it's not a retroactive thing. I'm not sure they can bring them back to redo the case. They've been deported. But those that are still in deportation, because before I came on your show, I was trying to call Congressman Van Hollen, Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, because he is the one working, trying to see those Cameroonians not to be deported back to Cameroon. He is working on that. Congresswoman Karen Bass, Ilan Omar, and Joaquim Castro. Those are the people working on that to try to see if these people should not be sent back to where they will be tortured. So again, to answer your question, the point where it is, there are two agencies that can stop that deportation: the Department of Homeland Security and the President of the United States, because they've exhausted all their processes in immigration court according to the system. So the only person that can get some sort of, I don't want to call it a clemency, or it's just a way to bring them back. I don't know what they would do when they stop that deportation. Maybe redo the case. That I don't know what the formula will look like. But yes, those are the two people that can stay these people from being deported: the President of the United States and the Department of Homeland Security.
For those still seeking asylum, and for those who may still be thinking of going through that process, what do they need to avoid a situation where they are not granted asylum and probably deported back to their home country?
You see, when I have the opportunity to talk to Africans or anyone seeking protection in the United States, I always try to let them know that what you say to an immigration officer, the first thing that you tell them once you're intercepted at the border, that's what will guide you all through your asylum process. You cannot, so you should know why you're coming to the United States. You should not do something that's frivolous. You're not coming here just to test the waters, whether you can win an asylum case or not. No, you should be persecuted. You should be fleeing from that persecution. So if something happened to you, let's say let's say you were in Bamenda and you're being arrested at the T junction because you were running the crowds there and all that stuff. They take you down there, they process you, and somehow you get released or something like that. So you tell the immigration officer when you're intercepted that you were arrested in Bamenda T junction. Then 2 days after that, another officer interviews you. You say, no, I was around Moliko and, you know, the students were marching and I was with them. That was the first time I was arrested. So you've told 2 different stories to 2 different people, but you're thinking that you know, these things are not being recorded. They're being recorded. And that's what will guide your story all through the entire process. So at some point, no matter the lawyer that you hire at that moment, you've already done the damage. You've already done it. There is no way it can be undone. And once the asylum officer, the second officer gets a contradictory message from you, now they will send you to the judge. The judge will take that as the premise of, you know, you not being truthful, you know, because you have to be, what you're saying is it has to be truthful. It has to be something that has happened to you. You cannot just manufacture facts because you want to obtain asylum in the United States. So those are the things. So those that are still in detention, please always try, if they have family members, have them look for attorneys in the United States. Or if they cannot pay an attorney, there are groups like, you know, non-profit groups that help people. They work with attorneys to help some of these people to address their issues, to make the case presentable. And again, one other error that most people make, and especially those coming from African countries that speak English, they think that because they speak English, which they do, of course, they're very educated, well-versed in English and all that stuff. I don't hold that against them. But the thing is, once you're trying to write a script, a memo in law to an immigration judge or to an immigration officer, those things come with specificity. You know, you cannot just, I mean, the way you read it and understand it, it is not the way the attorney will read it and understand it. So because you speak English, it is a plus, but look for somebody with a legal experience to assist you because they know exactly what the law is and they will apply your statements to the law because that's what it is. Because again, as I said, because if you were caught in T-Junction or in Moliko, no, is it because you were in a crowd or is it because they were looking for you? It depends at that moment. Because if you were just in a crowd, just running around with a green branch of leaf, you know, fighting the government, no, that does not guarantee asylum for you. But if you were there because you're a specific person, you're a person of interest, and the government is looking for you, okay, yes, you're good. But because these people don't really know the difference, oh, because I was at T-Junction, I was in Moliko or Moliwe or Mautu doing all my, you know, manifestations against the government, it gives me right to an asylum. No, it does not do that way. And of course, documentation that you present before the judges or before the courts, they have to be authentic. You know, you cannot call somebody in Tico and tell them to do affidavits, you know, they put a stamp that they just, you know, they manufactured in the, within the neighborhood. These things have been verified. And once they see things like that, those are falsified documents. And it goes to your credibility and your asylum case is toast. And that's it, you will be deported. So they're just different things you need to do.
All right, we wrap up with these statements from White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, who says, I quote, "We want to put in place an immigration process here that is humane, that is moral, that considers applications for people to come into this country at the border in a way that treats people as human beings." He went further to say that that's going to take some time. It is not going to happen overnight. Barrister, we are rounding up, but before we go in some few seconds, your take on the report published by Human Rights Watch about the Mautu incident in the southwest region of Cameroon.
I read the report by Human Rights Watch, and this is the sizzling effect of despondency. And I tell you, Mr. Babila, a harmful truth is better than a useful lie. And we cannot keep doing things and expecting some things to be different. I look at it this way. When the Secretary of the State of the Vatican, I think his name is Pietro Parolin, came to Cameroon, he was treated with gloves. He met the president of Cameroon. He went to Bamenda. and all that stuff. He was treated as a dignitary, which it is, that's how it's supposed to be done. You know, if you're trying to seek peace, you have to talk to the right people. He was treated well. Cardinal, to me, he's also a cardinal. He's a black person. He's of Cameroon origin. He's from Banso, but he has never been, maybe in private, but never in public. He's never been seen by the head of state. And that's the same person that he was entrusted with the, you know, getting, you know, a sampling of opinion, what English-speaking Cameroon, what the Southern Cameroons want. And he came up with a 69% that, yeah, this is what the people want. The president did not hear that. So we have to, at some point, believe in our own people. Believe in where you're coming from. You don't believe just on a Caucasian because they are white. Oh, no, it is not right. What we are doing is not right. Look, the killings in Maoto, which human rights is decoding, it's something that's rampant. But I keep asking this question. Why are you killing your fellow black people? Why this violence on black people, black on black violence? Why is the government doing all this? Why are you appeasing somebody who does not own your territory? Until we will unravel all this, we will still be there. So it's just sad that the military did what they did. And of course, we condemn violence on both sides. But it is something that we have to look into an ingrained mind to see what is wrong with Cameroon. Until the powers, until the right people speak truth to power, we will be where we are. Because you cannot treat two people of the same status, the cardinal because he's coming from Rome, and the other cardinal because he is a Cameroonian. You treat them with total, total despondency. One is treated as a rag. When Cardinal Tumi is going to Banso, he's been accosted by people, and he's been captured as a prisoner. That's But the other guy, when he comes, you give him all the state protocol. What's the difference between the two? Is it because one is black and one is white? Until we see past that, we will be where we are until tomorrow. Because, you should not be killing your own children. Those in power. I should indicate, Barrister, that the spokesperson of the Ministry of Defense has acknowledged the fact that soldiers carried out an operation in Maoto, but did not acknowledge the involvement of the military in the killing of civilians in that village in the southwest region of the country. Barrister Nenebaino Senakufo, attorney and counselor at law in New York, specialist in U.S. immigration law, human rights defender, major proponent of decolonization, and author of the book, The Land We Leave Behind. Thank you for joining us today. It was my absolute pleasure, Mr. Babile, and your staff at Equinoxe.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Equinoxe Soir comes up next with Serge Lonto.